Hey, this is Vashti with Vashti's House, and this is a Mom Talk. And this Mom Talk is for men only. If you're a woman, you can listen to it. But I checked my algorithms the other day on YouTube, and I was shocked to find out that 64% of my listeners and or followers are men. And so because of that, I decided I would speak to you men today. And so I can't speak to you about being a man because I'm not a man and I don't have your experience, but I have worked mostly with men throughout my career. My husband and I actually met working at a home for a transitional home for adjudicated boys in Southern California, mostly young men coming out of the gang lifestyle. And no, my husband was not one of the kids. He was actually one of the staff members. I have to clarify that. And worked in juvenile correctional facilities for boys in Alaska and Oregon, and then also with men in the men's prisons. And the latest thing that I did was as a treatment provider for the men's prisons in the town that I live in, everything from the maximum security prison to the minimum security prison. And basically, treatment provider, Oregon mandates that the inmates, we call them AICs, adults in custody upon release, they want them to go through some treatment programming, and some of it's volunteer and some of it's mandated. And so, as you can imagine, we get every single person that's going to get out, which is most people have to come through these classes. And so you get everybody in your class, and I've kind of been able to see men honestly in their worst situation at their worst, without being, without it being convoluted by drugs or alcohol. And as you can imagine, there's a lot of things that can happen in a classroom where everybody's kind of crammed in there. 20 people in a very small classroom. I only have a radio for my safety. So some of my classrooms in the maximum security prison, my classroom did not even have a camera in it. And so my job was to not only maintain safety and security in the classroom, but also create an environment where they could learn the material. And the material was all good material. It was awesome material. But regardless of how great the material is, if you are in a position or a state where you don't feel safe and you are, you feel threatened, your brain is going to stay in the fight, flight, or freeze mode, and you will not be in a position to really be able to absorb the information or participate in the therapeutic process. And so my biggest challenge was actually to create an environment where people felt safe and where they could participate in the therapeutic process. And as you can imagine, that was a challenge because you've got all kinds of people in there. But after a while, there was one thing that I realized that if I did, made all the difference in how people were able to make it through those classes and succeed their treatment programming. And this is something that it didn't just come to me one day, it's something that I learned over time. And that is when I lowered my standards for the guys, when many of them are illiterate, some of them you really do feel sorry for because they're on the bottom of the totem pole, and you know that it's dangerous for them in prison. Some people are they don't have the criminal mindset, but they've made a mistake and now they're in prison and they're having to deal with all the social dynamics of very, very violent offenders. And so when I felt sorry for people, or whatever the filter was, if I lowered my standards, that was actually the pill of death. And the reason it was is because it made them lose respect for themselves. Because if I didn't believe that they can do it, if I didn't fundamentally, in the core of my being, believe that they had what it took to get through this program, they would not believe it. Second of all, if I lowered the standards for them, they did not respect me. Because first of all, they don't want to respect me anyway, but it solidified why they didn't need to respect me. Because you don't respect people that don't respect you. And if I lower the standards for them, it was an intrinsic message that I don't respect you and I don't believe in you. Not only that, but they were less likely to listen to me and do anything else that I asked them to do because they saw me as weak. And did they call me a dumb bitch? Yes. Did they tell me that, I was stupid and didn't know what I was doing? Yeah, many, many, many times. Did they get angry when I told them that this was the standard and it wasn't going to change, and threaten me and tell me, whatever? They did all of those things. But when I didn't have enough self-respect in myself to hold to those standards, then they actually looked at me as somebody that did not have, that I couldn't even support my own core values. And so this is something that I learned over time, but I realized that when I told them the standards of what was going to be expected of them, and I always did an orientation at the beginning of classes, and throughout the courses, they tried to weasel out of it, let them know that the standards were not going to change, regardless of what they called me, regardless of their background, regardless of their story. The standard was going to remain the same. Over time, I ended up having classes where everybody graduated. Everybody graduated. The minute they knew there was not an out, everybody graduated. And you know what? They respected me a lot more. They were much more willing to perform to get my respect for them, because they respected me. Now, let me talk about the flip side of that. The flip side of that is I had to be willing to make accommodations. And so in your own life, my brothers, my fathers, my sons, as a man, from my experience, the pill of death in your life is if you lower your standards for yourself. If you let there be an excuse as to why you can't. There is no way that you can retain respect for yourself, self-respect. And if there's somebody in your life that is holding you to a high standard and you want to hate them, and maybe they're obnoxious and terrible and they don't do it right, but know that they're actually a gift to you. And the second thing I want to say is make the accommodations that you need. That was totally fine. It was fine for me. There's illiterate people in my class that cannot read or write. It was fine for me to make arrangements for me to help them. Some people had to do whole extra hours walking through the whole program. Most of the time we got volunteers. But sometimes there just wasn't enough volunteers. And so, we'd pair people up and people would volunteer to help the other guys. But it is okay to ask for help. It is okay to get accommodations for yourself. And listen, you may never meet your standard. And that's okay, because just striving for the standard your whole life is going to improve you as a human being and give you something worth striving for. You're never going to feel good about yourself by accepting defeat, accepting this is my lot in life, accepting your obstacles, your internal and external obstacles, whatever they may be. They're challenges. They're obstacles, they're challenges, but it's not the end. So men, this is my talk to you. This is my mom talk to you. Don't lower your standards. Keep them high. Even if your standards change, keep them high. Don't make excuses for yourself, and get the accommodations that you need. That's okay. Get the help that you need. Get the support that you need to make it happen. This is Vashta coming to you from Vashta's house. Hope you're having a great day, and make yourself at home.